Welcome to the Private Practice with Soul podcast. My name is Dr. Brooklyn Storm and I help private practice owners align their business back with their soul's calling, with their big vision and with their soul's purpose. Unlike other private practice coaches, I've traveled the world in search of spiritual resources, spiritual tools, education and information so that you can have the transformation that your soul desires and needs so that you can up-level your business. How much fun is this? I love it so much. Guys, if you're not already a member of the Private Practice Monthly Mentorship Group, please check out the show notes. I would love for you to be there. In the meantime, thank you so much for pushing play today. Let's begin. Good morning, everybody. Happy Saturday and welcome to another episode of the Private Practice with Soul podcast. Today I want to talk with you about fear and how fear manifests throughout the private practice journey. And this has come up because I have been blessed to be able to connect with some private practice owners this week and talk with them about what's coming up for them as they are either starting their business or they're making a change in the business. Some of them are moving from contractor models to having employees, and so fear is coming up around that. Some are looking at opening a second location, and so fear is coming up around that. And some people are at the very beginning of starting a private practice. Fear is coming up around that. And then you've got people like myself who are in the process of retiring, and of course, fear is coming up around that. So I thought what I would do is perhaps do a one-to-many podcast today and try and give you a bit more of, let's look at this through a spiritual lens. It's private practice issues, but let's try and give them some spiritual context so that we can understand what's going on for us as practice owners and practice directors. So I guess, I want to talk with you about 4 or 5 ideas or perspectives that I have around spirituality and fear. And let's see if one or more of these lands for you. And at the end of the podcast, of course, I'm going to give you some prompts that you can use to create shifts and transformation for yourself for when you go through fear. Okay, so I guess the first thing to understand is that fear is a really normal part of the process. Okay, and fear is coming from ego. It's released from ego. Now, contrary to the Skyhook song that says ego is a dirty word, I love ego because it's like your own personal bodyguard that's just constantly there. He's like, Men in Black for your mind. He's just always a couple of steps ahead of you, trying to make sure that the path is clear, that you're safe, that everything's going to be all right. And it's his job, I'm just saying his, but, to keep an eye out for any risk or any danger and to protect you from that. And does that by saying, hey, look out for this. This might not be such a good thing. And then that triggers off all sorts of neurological events. And it's those neurological events that then lead to production of neurotransmitters that then send signals throughout our body that make us feel the physiological symptoms of fear, right? And then fight or flight or freeze kicks in and, we panic. And I guess the thing is, ego, you have to understand, ego is there to serve and protect, okay? And so when you're feeling afraid in private practice, it can be so easy to get caught up in the emotion of that. And I believe that sometimes when we're caught up in a fear state that we can't think clearly. What I would want you to honor though is that this thought is coming from a good place, and it's just a warning. You don't have to take it on board if you don't want to. Okay, but at the same time, you still have control. You don't have to give in to the feeling of fear. What you can do is experience the feeling of fear because it's a really valid thing, but then give yourself a break and really just honor that your mind is working so well, that your ego is working so well. Thank it for looking after you, and then objectively evaluate what you want to do and what action that you want to take. Okay, all it is it's It's like when you write a report. In your report, you might have the background or the demographic history, then you're going to say what the presenting problem is, then you're going to say what the diagnosis is, or the assessment and the diagnosis and the treatment and the progress. You could do all of that, and then you're going to summarize everything and then tie it off with recommendations. Now it's up to the person receiving that report whether or not to put the recommendations in place. It's the same with ego. Ego is just making some recommendations. You don't have to get swept up in the emotion of it. You have a choice. You can absolutely allow yourself to experience the fear, but the next step is to give yourself space to evaluate the fear, evaluate the recommendation that ego is making for you, and decide whether or not you want to accept it. Okay? That's up to you. You get to choose. That's the first thing. The second thing is, when we're talking about the universe and universal laws, we need to always remember that wherever you are in life, your private practice as well, is exactly where you need to be at this exact time. You are always on the right path. And so sometimes when fear comes up, it can be a sign that we've lost faith in the process, or we're not trusting the process, or we're not surrendering. And that's a clue that we're still anchored into that ego-based fear. So that's something to think about. And if you resonate with that, if you can say, okay, then maybe I am exactly where I need to be. Maybe the practice is exactly where it needs to be right now, and I'm okay with trusting that. What would then become available for you? So consider that, because that can open up opportunities for you in the practice that perhaps you might not see if you're stuck in that, if you're just spinning in the fear. All right. The third thing is, in terms again of universal laws, we need to understand that fear is required, okay? There's a universal law of polarity, and this particular law tells us that everything has, an opposite. It's like there's two sides of a coin, there's black and white, there's yes or no, all that sort of jazz. Well, in order for you to feel calm in the practice, and in order for you to feel really confident in the practice and to be in flow in the practice and all those sorts of things, it's a requirement that you also feel fear in the practice sometimes, okay? And quite often that experience of fear and the experience of calmness and confidence are going to be relative to each other. Which means if you have periods in the business where you feel like, oh, this is great, I'm in flow, like I'm so calm and I'm just in the zone right now, and you're just in that really good space, well, when you have fear, that fear is going to be to the same degree as when you were feeling confident, right? So if you're feeling super confident, then you're going to feel super afraid. This is how it works energetically. And so understanding that fear is necessary and fear is required in order for you to experience the calm and the peace and the confidence can help you get your mind clear on, okay, this is normal. This is normal. Just like, everything that goes up has to come down, there's left and there's right, all that sort of stuff. We have to have fear. It's a normal part of the process. And you are never, ever, 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 ever alone in the fear, though it can feel like that sometimes. You're in it and you're in this black hole and it's super scary and you feel like you're all alone and you feel like you're the only private practice owner to be right where you are now. But here's the thing, you're not, okay? Because all private practice owners experience fear at different parts of their journey. And I want you to understand and remember back to previous episodes on the podcast as well, where we spoke about every time you up level in the practice, while you consciously make that decision to take the practice to the next level, whether that's hiring somebody or introducing a new service, letting somebody go, whatever it is, every single time you take that practice to the next level, all the stuff that you haven't dealt with in the past bubbles up to the surface again. And it's there as a little reminder for you to deal with that. And you deal with some of it and you calm down and you hit your next level and everything goes along at a really beautiful, calm, confident pace until you're ready to up level again. And then that stuff comes up again that wasn't addressed the last time around. So this is okay. It's really normal. There is nothing at all wrong with you. In fact, it's just the opposite. If you weren't feeling nervous, if you weren't feeling worried, if you weren't feeling afraid at different points in the practice, well, we'd be having a very, very different conversation. Okay, so understand that it's safe for you to feel like this because it's required in order for you to experience the calm and the confidence that's going to follow. Another thing to remember as well is that when we're talking about spirituality, for example, we know that you have to have that moment of chaos and confusion, and well, we call it contrast, right? Because it's the opposite to what you want. You're wanting everything to just go really smoothly. Sorry, you're wanting everything to go super smoothly, but the opposite is happening, and we've got this contrast. But here's the thing: the contrast is required in order to bring the clarity. So you can think about times in your life where you felt super scared, or you felt really nervous or afraid or worried about something, and then think what happened after that. All right, I bet you grew on some level in some way. Something shifted for you, something changed for you. It was expansive. Okay, you learned, you grew, and you blossomed after going through that sort of storm. And so these experiences of contrast are fantastic opportunities for you to understand, trust, surrender, and believe that what's going to happen is on the other side of this, you're going to be an even better private practice owner for the lessons that you've learned. For example, someone that I was working with, she was looking at hiring team for her private practice, and she was struggling to find the right people, and then she ended up hiring somebody out of desperation who wasn't really an ideal fit, but this private practice owner thought she was just going to make it work, and it ended up going really, really badly. But she hired out of fear, right? And then what happened was the person didn't work out, she didn't fit with the team, she didn't have the culture, she didn't have the values, all that sort of jazz, and it was a real headache to try and manage and to try and work with. And eventually the owner was able to release this person from the contract, right? Now you can imagine what that private practice owner was going through. It was super uncomfortable, brought up fear for her. Here we go again. I'm not going to find the right person. What if I make the mistake again, etc., etc. But after it was all over, she had clarity around the type of person she wanted on the team, what kind of personality they needed to have, what availability they needed to have, all of that sort of good stuff, right? So then she was able to use that new knowledge and integrate that with her recruiting processes, and then she starts to get closer and closer to finding her ideal candidate. So that's what I mean. There's always growth, there's always expansion, there's always lessons on the other side. So finding your way to anchor into that is really, 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 really going to help you. And so I want you to know that fear in private practice is absolutely a sign of your growth. The fear is not a sign that you're making mistakes. The fear is a sign that you're on the right path, okay? Emotionally, fear doesn't feel good, but try and honor the experience that you're having of fear, and then honor giving yourself time to reflect on, okay, what's really behind this? What's going on here? Why am I feeling like this? What are my concerns? What beliefs are coming up for me? What do I need to do about this today? And so because this is a transformational podcast, I want to give you a couple of questions that might help you to process fear if you find that you're experiencing it, which you're going to, okay? Look, I've been in private practice for nearly 25 years. I've had my own business for 25 years, been a psychologist for 21, and believe you me, I've absolutely had fear. Even this year, I've had so much fear because there's been so much change. There was COVID, there was taking the practice online, there was looking at retiring, all that sort of stuff. So I've had my fair share of fear. So I can absolutely relate to what you must be going through. And I'm here to reassure you that you're on the right track. Fear is a sign you're doing it right. Okay. All right. So here are some prompts to help you process it. So first of all, I want you to ask yourself, is this fear coming from love? Is this fear coming from love? And I'll tell you why that's an important question. This question is going to ground you, okay? When you're feeling in fear, when you're in a fear state, what happens is you start spinning, okay? We call it spinning because you're not thinking clearly, everything's going round and round in circles, and you're perhaps catastrophizing, making things bigger, imagining the what ifs and making yourself anxious, right? That fear is coming from ego. But spiritually speaking, the opposite of ego is your soul, right? It's your soul, it's your higher self, and your soul comes from love, all right? Your intuition comes from love. Your higher consciousness comes from love, okay? Ego is fear and it's just doing its job, that's fine. But what I want you to do is ask yourself when you're ready, where is this thought coming from? Is this thought coming from love? And 9 times out of 10, you're going to realize it's not, okay? Ask yourself then, how can I drop back into my soul now? How can I drop back into that place of love right now? What would my soul say about what I'm embarking on? What would my soul say about me hiring somebody for the practice? What would my soul say about me starting a private practice? What would my soul say about me releasing somebody from a contract or signing a lease on a new premises? Your soul always comes from love. It comes from highest intention and it always wants the best for you. Okay, so allow yourself to drop back into your heart space and look at the situation through the lens of a loving soul, a loving space, a loving higher consciousness, a loving intuition, and allow yourself to journal through what that part of you says about the situation. So, to give you an example, if I connect into my soul about retiring from psychology, well, my ego might say, oh my gosh, you're going to lose all your clients and you're not going to have a practice and you worked so hard and it was such an investment, so many years, you know, what about the title of psychologist, all of that sort of stuff, right? And so I can spin in that. But if I say to myself, what does my intuition say about this? Or what does my soul say about this? Or for me personally, I like to think about my higher self. I like to, do a meditation and go inside and connect with, my higher self, or, and I want to check in with her and ask what she says about retiring from psychology. My higher self says, I need to do this in order to connect in the way I want to connect with the women that I want to work with. And that helps me anchor into, oh, it's safe for me to do this. That's right. This is my why. This is my purpose. This is why I'm doing it. And it's not about me. It's about the people that I'm working with. So there's an example, a lived experience example of how this works, these journal prompts. And then the last one is just sort of more an action step for you, and to say, what action can I take with this new awareness? So whatever comes up for you when you have a soul inquiry like that, your soul inquiry is when you check in with your intuition or higher self about why you're doing what you're doing, asking yourself then, okay, what action can I take with this new awareness will help you embody that why into your reality, meaning into the practice, into your everyday, into your routine, into your planning, into your marketing, whatever it is that you're working on at the time. Make sense? Okay. Well, I will wrap it up there. In the private practice mentorship group over the next few weeks, we're going to be talking more about the role of energy, masculine energy and feminine energy as it relates to private practice. And you are absolutely welcome to join the group and participate in that training and those coaching calls. It turns out that this has been a really popular topic, so I'm loving speaking about it. And we have a beautiful group of women in private practice from Australia and America and Canada in that group, and I would love for you to come and connect with other licensed social workers, mental health social workers, psychologists, counselors, coaches who are trying to juggle integrating spirituality with their private practice. Okay, guys, have a beautiful Saturday. Thank you so much for listening. You are exactly where you need to be right now for your soul's journey in your business, okay? If you need any help or any support, reach out. I'll put my email in the comments for you. Have a beautiful day, guys. Bye. Thank you so much for listening to this episode of the Private Practice with Soul podcast today. If you're looking for clarity, if you need help with branding, your processes, and bringing everything into alignment with your soul's purpose for your private practice, head to the show notes and click the link for more information about the Private Practice Monthly Mentorship Group. You are going to love it. I can't wait to see you in there. Thanks so much for listening. Bye.